What's up, people? This is your boy, Staff D. This is another Thinking Out Loud, Dangerous Minds podcast. This is episode 10. I got my boy, the one and only Ministry in the building. What's up?
What's going on? What's going on, good people? What's up? We back at it again. Like you said, Staff, episode 10. We back in this mugs, ready to do it again, ready to do what we do. What's good?
Hey, okay. This is let me send a shout out to my boy GQ. Are You Serious Production? This is one of his tracks that he made for me that I'm currently trying to create some ideas for. So but that's what you're listening to. So we're using it for an intro. Anyway, yeah, we back, folks. Actually, we recorded last week, but due to some copyright issues, we wasn't able to get that one up. So I'm editing that one, and I will upload that one at a later date so that we can get it away from copyright claims and things like that. So anyway, what's been good with you, Trev? What you been on, man?
Man, just life, man. Family. Actually, tonight I just earlier tonight got through at one of my sons, one of my twins, the youngest of my twins, had his first band. Well, not really a concert, but basically, I guess like the way the band instructors described it is basically it was like the band's version of a scrimmage. Basically, we got to sit in on watching them basically practice and rehearse, and they played. They got a chance to play their three first selections, which one was Mary Had a Little Lamb, and there was two other selections. They were very basic, very simple. Because he's in sixth grade. He's in sixth grade band, which I never knew sixth grade band existed because where I'm from, we didn't have sixth grade band. We had seventh through high school, but no, man. So came from there, supporting my son, my youngest twin, and so we did that. Just been on the fatherhood tip, husband, working. And just been reading, been in the scriptures, been reading through Philippians, and also still reading through How Africa Shaped the Christian Mind by Thomas C. Oden.
You're kind of going in and out. You might want to scoot up to your mic. I don't know if it's...
my bad. It might be my signal. That might be it. But yeah. So I mean, that's what I've been on, man. Just reading the scriptures, reading good literature. That's what I've been up on.
Yeah, man. As far as me, man, been in the book, the Bible. Was really diving into the whole. I think it's in what is that? No, that's not. Is it Romans? Hold up, let me see. Go back. I was make sure. Yeah, Romans 8 and 20.
Romans 8.
Yeah, man. That actually really been in my thoughts. I don't know if it's because of Lecrae's album. I don't know, but I went and the Lord had kind of brought that back to my thoughts all last week, man, before Sunday. So I was really diving into what it means when it says all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. And then, when you get off into it, it starts talking about even down to how even when you don't know what to pray, when you don't know what to ask, the Spirit through groaning and it will speak for you and speak on your behalf. Like literally, so where we end up going was the fact that because he chose us and we didn't choose him.
Yeah.
It is he who's going to make sure or ensure that we would get to the expected end that he has purpose for us.
Man. Don't start preaching, Stan. Come
No,
on,
I'm just
dude. No,
saying, man. It
no,
was like
I'm saying because that's hey, that sounded good.
so. Yeah, it was like, man. So I was like looking at all the different situations where, so, you know, a lot of times, man, so much onus is put on us, or we think so much onus is put on us, which
Dude,
it
come
is.
on,
Don't get me
come
wrong,
on.
it is. We
We
have
we
we
have a
have a
responsibility.
responsibility. We have a responsibility. We have something that we have to do, but it's not based on what we are doing. It's based on what he
What
has
is
done
done? Thank you.
and how we
Thank you.
right and how we respond to that. And it is like
Yeah.
not even my response is the fact that I'm in my attempt to respond correctly, grace makes that enough. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
dude.
And so I was really like looking at, and then when it says all things, like so even like I was listening to and I sent you who it was. I think it's how you say his name.
Ravi Zacharias.
Yeah, Ravi. I've listened to him before. I seen that interview with The Truth before.
Okay,
So I
I was
was
gonna,
listening.
I was gonna say, I was like, now, Stab, I know you gotta know who Ravi
Yeah,
is.
I know who he is, but it wasn't that I didn't know who he is. It's just I never really beyond that interview with Lecrae. I didn't really I didn't really listen to any of the things that he was saying. Man, was I highly impressed by
Dude, he a
some of the
beast,
things he was
Stan.
saying.
Yeah.
And it just made me realize, dude, like while I have a responsibility, sometimes we make it based off of what we do,
Yes.
not enough of what he has done, and how what he has done is enough. It's like he told Paul, my grace is sufficient. Everything I've done. So even all the negatives, like a question was asked to him, like, how do I rationalize all the negative, all the bad things? How can I serve a God
Yeah.
that allows, abortion? How can I serve a God that with all these calamities and tragic situations that happen? And I was thinking about that, and it was funny how I was thinking about how all the things that have ever happened in my life, the most bad, the most horrific, the most tragic, it was still work to my good. Something good for
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
is coming out of that pain, out of that hurt, out of that hardship, even if it's a testimony for those who are going through that to know that they can make it through that, even if it's as simple as that, and so that scripture had been in my head so hard, man. So I end up dealing with that, and so I've been on that and some other things, but as far as that,
Yeah.
like you said, fatherhood and uh husband, clergy, pastoring, and things like that, which I'm embracing more and more and more, man. And as a couple, me and my wife are slowly embracing more and more and more, and being molded to, first of all, together to be one accord with one another in it,
Yeah.
and then God is kind of shaping me and molding me and impressing upon me the things that I need to do, the heart of the people, to have a heart for the people and what they need. And well, it's just been a journey, man. So that's been about it for my week. But anyway, but yeah, man, got to watch my son. I posted it on Facebook. Mike ran that touchdown, but that was his third touchdown for that day. And
Oh, really?
I missed the first one because I got there a little late. Saw the second one. He ran like a 65, 70-yard touchdown. And then before I got there in their first possession, he ran the touchdown. So yeah, he was doing real good, man. That's junior varsity. He only a freshman, so that's 10th and 11th graders and 9th graders, and he only in the 8th grade, and he doing that. So
Mike only in eighth grade?
not ninth grade,
Well,
but that's
I'm gonna
yeah,
say, I'm
ninth
assuming.
grade. My bad, ninth grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade, and he only in the 9th grade. So but that's junior varsity. So a lot of times the 11th graders who can't start varsity and the 10th graders normally be in those spots, but he got a starting position, and they looking at him for varsity. So
Oh, that's
like,
what's up.
he's doing good. But anyway, so let's get into this situation, man, that we set up here. So the title of this particular this episode is CHH, is Christian hip hop now in a woke state? And we plan on that word woke, meaning is Christian hip hop now aware? You know, are we aware? Not to say that we were not aware, but are we aware to a heightened sense? Meaning, I playing off of this with Eric Mason had done a sermon series called Woke Church, where he was dealing with a church, an emerging church that is woke or aware, not just woke, awakened, but aware, alert, heightened sense,
socially conscious.
Yeah, socially conscious, aware to what's going on around it, how it affects them, and how we are to impact it, how we to engage it, how are we to reach it, and how are we to deal with the intricacies of what's going on in our nation, in our society, as you know, as a church, and also as brown and black people within the church. How are we as Christians are to address things that that affect us as a group, as a race, as a tribe, or whatever you want to say? So he titled it Woke Church, and I actually preached a message dealing with this same premise, and based on Ephesians, where it says, "Awaken, thou sleeper, wake from your sleep, thou that slumbers," and all that. And I preached off of that and kind of was dealing with how I kind of ran it into how in the book of Matthew, when Jesus was asking them to pray, watch as he prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he said, "Watch with me as I pray," and how he kept coming back to Peter, James, and John, and they were asleep, and he would ask them, to watch, and every time he would go to pray, the second time he come back and he found them asleep, and he went back a third time and came back, and they were still asleep, and he said, "Sleep on," right? And but the thing was, he wasn't asking them to pray, he was asking them to watch, mean to be alert, to be aware, because Jesus understood that the Roman soldiers with Judas was coming to take him into custody, to take him into as a prisoner. And he wanted them to watch so that it was a teaching lesson, but it was a real lesson at the same time. He wanted them to watch so they could be able to alert him, or they can alert him when the soldiers got there, because he was praying. So it wasn't that he really needed them to watch. I think he was trying to teach them that, it's not just praying. He said, watch as well as pray. So that's another play on that whole woke state. Are we awoke? Are we watching? Are we alert? And are we engaging? So the question is CHH now in a woke state? We're starting to see a lot more artists begin to engage the social climate that they're living in without the fear, or without the concerns, or without worrying about, or willing to take the repercussions of their actions for speaking out. You get where I'm going with that. Like we talked a lot about Lecrae, but not just Lecrae. Sho Baraka, we talk a lot about him. Not just Sho Baraka. Thizzle has started to emerge and begin to speak on these things. Derek Minor is starting to speak on these things. KB is, and we're gonna play a clip from him, and we're gonna use it as a talking point. But he's starting to speak up, and many artists within CHH, which is a very diverse group of artists, Christian artists, but still primarily dominated by brown and black people. They're starting to wake up and speak out against the injustices, against the wrongs in our society, the wrongs in our nation, the disparities in our nation, the inequality within our nation as it pertains to the plight of brown and black people, and finding themselves getting a lot of pushback from the evangelical church that has that they have championed and has championed them, especially amongst the majority, which is our white brothers and sisters. A lot don't want to hear that conversation had. Uh, it made me and Trev ask the question: is CHH now in a woke state? Like, what with all that I just said, I went on a good ramble right there. Before we play this KB clip, what's your thoughts on that? Is in your opinion, has CHH entered into a woke state of consciousness when it comes to social issues that plagues people, and especially brown and black people of this nation?
Well, looking at the looking at the tone and the direction that a lot of the artists seem to be going in nowadays, it would seem that way. It would seem that CHH is in a more woke state as far as the content. But one thing I would say, I guess to try to be as fair and I guess as nuanced as I could be, and you mentioned some of the artists already. There's some who I feel were already on that trajectory. It just it was kind of it might have not been as direct or as heavy, but I feel like they always kind of catered toward that type of demographic and catered toward that type of leaning. Like when you mentioned Thizzle, uh, like I feel like Thizzle's always he's always had the hood in mind,
Right, right.
and always had impoverished community and those who were in the trap, those who were the young woman who may be out there dancing for money, or the young dude who out there on the block who getting it in trapping or whatever. He's always kind of targeted and aimed his messages toward them. So I feel like he's been somewhat a dude has already been somewhat woke or conscious. But I mean, of course, especially since I would say since the Chronicles of an Ex-Hustler, I feel like he's kind of been more socially conscious with his message. It's of course definitely saturated with the gospel, but yeah. Now, one who I would say has been on this for a minute before it was even popular. One I would say is Fizz, but another one is Show
Yes,
Baraka.
right. Yeah.
The thing is, he was hinting at this back in like 2010 with Liars and Liars, and I mean, you heard it on certain songs. You know what I'm saying? You even heard his critique against evangelicalism and its hypocrisy on the song called Liars Anthem. You know, with the pimpin', murder, sell drugs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
track. He talked about the hypocrisy and the foolishness and the folly of the hood. But he also talked about the foolishness and the folly and the hypocrisy of the church. And so I mean, he a lot of the stuff that is becoming more pronounced in many people, like you said, like a KB, who now he's one, like you said, who I would say has emerged, who is becoming, and he even says it in an interview with
Wait, though.
With Wado that you got a clip queued up for. He even mentions it, said that he's now becoming more woke, and I would echo that sentiment. Me, I'm definitely not the most wokest person. I'm growing, and I'm striving to grow in that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But um, but yeah, I would say it would seem to be that yeah, CHH is becoming more woke. It there are some who like I said, there's some who already been on this, and I would say those are Shobaraka, Thizzle, Tony Tillman. who used to go by Brother Tone. Uh, if you listen to his album, uh, he has an album that's actually named uh, after his hometown, Camden, Arkansas, and uh, and the whole album is about you know it's about life in the hood and about life what life is like in his hometown of Camden, Arkansas, and basically how it was the grace of God that pulled him from it, and how that place yet needs the grace of God. Um,
Right.
and he deals with it in a very real way, uh, but also in a hopeful way. It's not just he ain't just trying to just give you a bunch of hood tales, But he does it in a way to where where he does it in a way to where he's giving you this narrative, but it's real, it's engaging, it's compelling, but at the same time, you come away hopeful that that God would do a work through him and others in in his context.
Right.
And but he's one. I would say propaganda is another one. You
Yeah.
know, uh, but
There's a
to
lot,
your
man. There's a lot more. There's a lot more that's like you name it. This we would be here forever trying to name all the ones who are, and it ain't really just to speaking about what's going on in the hoods. That I believe that's been going
yeah
on
yeah
for a while. I'm saying woke from the sense of the fact that, and KB going to go into it, so I'm a kind of limit what I'm gonna say at this point because I want KB the segment that we're going to play to be echoed first before we start talking about it. But like this was like when you said you were talking about yourself. You said I'm like becoming more awoke and aware and more conscious and intentional about my discussion when it pertains to the plight of inner city activity or the plight of the marginalized and the plight of the ones who are oftentimes on the losing end of social issues
yeah
and
yeah
justice system. Like me, I would say that part of me was always there. Maybe not in my music, maybe not in because I didn't think I'm gonna be honest with you, and that's why I think this is we all are waking up. I thought I had a song called "Still Talking,"
yeah
where I began to kind of address how, from the lens of a Christian, how I did it I did it from a few different angles. I did it from the lens of the sinner, the unsaved, the one in the inner city, the one in sin that's living a life that is not acceptable to what Christianity would say is right. I did it from the lens of how they are looking at us, looking at them, right?
yeah
And how are sometimes we lack the grace, we lack the mercy, we lack the love and compassion that even Christ showed towards us in our sins and our wrongs. And because of righteousness, we judge them as if we are God, as if we are the final authority. And I was trying to paint how there might be reasons for that person being in the lifestyle that they're in. You see them selling drugs, or you see this woman on the corner as a prostitute. You didn't know that as a child she got molested. You don't know as a child she was done this way and done well. You don't know that as a child this young man was forced to be the man of the house cause his dad was locked up in prison and his mom, was working 3 and 4 jobs and he and couldn't make ends meet. You didn't know that story. All you see is the end results, or all you see is the effect.
you see the symptoms.
Yeah, you see the effect. You don't see the cause. You ain't
Yeah
seeing. You dealing with the symptoms, not the root that's causing the symptoms.
yeah
And then and I kind of interjected back into. So I was looking from a Christian looking at fellow Christians looking at sinners, and I looked at it from the angle of a Christian looking a Christian kind of offended by that view of how other Christians view sinners And then I rap from the position of a sinner viewing back at the Christian. And it turned out to be a really good song, but like I was there, but I would say I'm even waking up to the fact that just how because of the situation of CHH and the position that CHH is in now, and who CHH caters to, and who invites and engages these CHH artists, who support CHH artists, who fund CHH artists, these the seminaries that we go to, the conferences that we attend, oftentimes are dictating the content that we put out and disseminate and rap on, and it kind of also makes it hard to deal with a lot of these things. So so I can say, yeah, we all are starting to become more conscious of just how needed this conversation is, and just how kind of gagged we have been, kind of self-gagged and indirectly gagged, and in some cases directly gagged. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Talking about these situations. So let's play this, and because I feel like KB really articulates this well. Wado asks them some real good questions, and I want to play this so it can set up the rest of this conversation. You ready?
Sure.
All right.
I want your thoughts. I thought about this the other day. I feel like for the first time in the church's history in America, there are actually a lot of African Americans that are in position to even have these kind of conversations in a respectable way with the evangelical church, which is majority white. Yeah. But get this though, the crazy part about it is Christian hip hop has been a big part of that fuel. And in particular, I shouldn't even just say Christian hip hop, Reach Records, Lamp Mode, even Cross Movement too. And like you look at what Deuce and Wells and a lot of what they're doing, like they're in position to have those conversations where we, if you look at our history, never really had that, man. Just your thoughts on that, bro.
So,
and I know it's not as much as we would want it to be.
Sure. So it's so funny, Doc, because I remember being called a Black Panther by some brothers probably like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And to see those same brothers calling me, basically Uncle Tom.
Wow. Because
this is what happened. One day folks woke up and said, oh my goodness. They were like, I am a champion for a group of people who are utterly ignorant of everything that I came from.
Yeah.
And I've become a reflection of that ignorance because I'm ignorant about where I came from, because I haven't even thought about it very deeply. I grab much respect to Bible college. I love Bible college. And I don't want to put mine down, the one I went to. But I remember starting my first year at Bible college, like, I'm getting this and I'm going back to the hood, dog. Yeah. I'm getting in, going back, getting in, going back. I got in. 3 years later, I was seriously contemplating planting a church in rural Minnesota. I was seriously contemplating, like, Lord, how's this going to work? They're in the lumber and stuff like
rural
that.
Minnesota, though?
Yes, because I had a class called Urban Missions, and it was like what urban meant like a million years ago.
Yeah.
And we played this video of these unreached people in like rural Minnesota. So I'm like, Lord, I don't like being cold, but this is where you're calling me. I'm not even thinking the fact that I'm a black dude from Southside St. Petersburg showing up in rural Minnesota while Southside St. Petersburg is dying. So the psyche begins to shift. Same thing we talk about. John Piper's one of my heroes. I say that unashamedly. I love John Piper.
Yeah.
But when we think about Don't Waste Your Life, in that book, which is my wife's one of her favorite books, and there's so much in there that's good, but there's so many blind spots in that book. You can't travel around urban America telling them don't chase the American dream. We're not dreaming at all. We don't even see ourselves past 21 years old. I'm not saying everybody. I don't want to blanket dictate or make things worse than they ought to be. But I'm just saying there is a deeper need where people are trying to survive in these neighborhoods. They don't even have a concept of thriving. So what does the gospel have to say to that? You feel me? I'm not afraid I'm gonna become too rich and I'm gonna forget about God. I'm afraid I'm gonna become too poor and forget about God and start robbing people. And the Bible deals with both of those realities. You feel me? So I think that I don't even know why I haven't got onto this, but, I just certainly think that it's just a wider situation that we got to be aware of.
Yeah.
Let me see
that. That's what I was gonna say. I'm sorry. That the fact of the matter is that we wake up and like, yo, we need to realize that when we said understand the times and know what to do, it meant understand the suburbs and know what to do. And we forgot that there are people outside of that world that have experiences. So what I want to do is I want to continue to love the suburb. I don't want to get rid of my love for the white evangelical crowd, and I know that's a lot more nuanced and not. But you know what I'm trying to say. I don't want to lose my love for the majority culture like I had before, and say, you know, now I'm done with y'all. I'm going over here.
Yeah.
I think we need to be intentional, and I think some brothers have tried to do this about ensuring that now that there's intentionality around trying to speak to everyone's experience and make music that everyone that is in our scope can deal with. And I think when that happened, some people did what I said we shouldn't do. They were like, I'm done with y'all. I'm going here. And some of that's noble. I can respect some of that. But I do think that there needs to be a carefulness with realizing that we are dealing with people that Christ has died for. Remember that allegiance thing? Christ has died for people that I'm going to stand in front of at Winter Jam. Christ has died for those little kids in that youth group, just like Christ has died for the people in the hood. I have found myself uniquely in front of both audiences. I want to steward and love them well. Now, I know there's no perfect world. Yeah. People are going to reject you. You're going to get pushed back. It's unavoidable. Sure. But at the end of the day, there needs to be a gospel metric that we're at least dying and fighting for, and not trying to show that we're black enough and now we're with the struggle. A lot of these dudes they're fake woke. They literally been awake for 5 minutes. They're literally just repeating what they saw on Twitter or some meme, or they're doing publicity stunts. But there is a integrated, like thick and long history of urban black leaders like myself, even though I'm just starting myself, but there's a history of folks that engage these issues as Bible believing Christians, loving their neighbor even where they feel though the image of God on them is being strained.
It's good.
Okay, so very good stuff. So Trev, there's so much to unpack here because, like I said, we were talking about it earlier. So KB is basically saying that CHH, I like how you were describing why he was happy to get to seminary, what his hope and plan was for going, and how that shifted and changed while being at seminary. When he went from, man, I'm going to go here, gain this information, gain this knowledge, and I'm going to bring it back to the hood, right? I'm going to bring it back to those who I see they struggle, I see they plight. Then getting to seminary, getting into the classes, now he feels led to go to what did he say?
Rural Minnesota.
Rural Minnesota. So basically a predominantly white area. And he was like, he felt, he was kind of being funny, but he was also being serious because this is actually some of the things that were happening to a lot of CHH artists, where as they were coming out of seminaries, if they was coming out of Bible colleges and different things, they weren't coming back to the inner cities. They weren't coming back. They were going farther in what seminary was doing for them and taking them into that world, into that life where they was kind of shedding or forgetting about the need of those from where they came from. And he was like, dude, I'm a black guy from this area. Those guys need exactly what I got too. Why am I? So that's my first question. Like, why do you think that was happening? Like, because we saw this a lot. I think even Show Baraka kind of talked about this, and Lecrae did too. Why do you think that was happening so much when they was going to these places?
I think it goes back to the phrase that he referred to dealing with John Piper's book, Don't Waste Your Life. I think it has to deal with blind spots, cultural blind spots in a lot of these seminaries and a lot of these Bible colleges, because they are predominantly majority culture. They and they're populated by majority culture as well. They tend to that's where they're gonna cater towards, and they don't really, they have the luxury of not really having to think about uh life outside of their world. And so when individuals like a KB or the Cray or Shobaraka goes, and they come from an unreached area, like a place where that needs the gospel, and it's a place that is marginalized. It's a place. It's a right mission field, and they and one of the things I want to point out is that, you know, as you stated, KB went for missions, and he was even in missions class. And he said, and here's the blind spot: in his missions class, when they were showing him videos on like what they believed to be the mission field, the of urban, and he said it was an urban missions class.
Yeah, so, yeah. So that is what they perceived as what was where the need was at.
Yeah, which is crazy because it was called urban missions, but it was pointing them to a rural area. Now, right. urban and rural are two totally different things. But
right.
But the main thing is because it was unreached. It was an unreached area, so they were pointing people in this direction, which is a good thing. But to KB's point, KB, he already comes from. He's an indigenous native of an unreached area. Southside St. Petersburg, Florida, to be exact.
Right.
He comes from that. He knows the lingo. He knows the culture. He lives and breathes that environment. He's fluent in that context, and there's nothing for he doesn't have to go there and study the place and relearn it. He already knows it. All he needs is just the equipping, the theological equipping that the college has to offer, and then as he stated, what his original intent was to take that back. But because of the the presentation, and them laying out these other opportunities, he was seriously thinking about going to rural Minnesota. But the thing was, I believe it's because back to my original point, blind spots. They don't think about, when they think of marginalization, when they think about like the marginalized, they're thinking in their world. Many times, they're not thinking about the inner. A lot of times, they're not thinking about the inner city. And maybe it was just this particular. Maybe it was this particular college or a particular string of colleges, or seminaries, but they weren't thinking. As far as like urban missions, local urban missions, as far as urban missions in the States. Their idea of urban missions was rural Minnesota, and my answer to that, staff, is I believe that many of these institutions, because they are the leadership is white, and so a lot of the curriculum is set up and planned and orchestrated, and it's going to have I believe unintentionally, but it's going to have a Western Eurocentric white lean to it. Yeah. And so it's I believe that's what KD was victim of, you know,
and I agree, and it speaks to something because like you said with KB, we also seen this with Lecrae. We also seen him speak on some things that he, you know, now that he's in the position where he is now, and you know, through some of the frustrations that he had to kind of work out in private, and you know, and some publicly, he's working out a lot of frustrations with this very topic and this very tightrope that they were walking. Like, it seems like to me, like you said, unintentionally, these artists, through their, you know, they zeal and aspirations and inspirations, were all trying to do a good thing, a good work. Like, it ain't that these people where he was wanting to go didn't need the gospel, don't need to hear the gospel, but it's like when you were being conditioned, in some cases unintentionally, and in some cases intentionally, being conditioned to only see a certain sector, a certain demographic of people, and they want you to influx and infiltrate people of that group without being mindful or concerned about all people. We started seeing, and I won't speak for you, I'll speak for myself. This was a big concern to me that I started noticing. I first started noticing when, and Lecrae kind of spoke on this when he said he started being intentional about finding black pastors and black leaders and black influential leaders and speakers to put on his albums, because he felt like a lot of their material was dominated by our Caucasian brothers. There ain't nothing wrong with it. Wasn't nothing wrong with having white preachers and white authors and white written books and European books and westernized books. Nothing wrong with that, but it was like, what about those who look like you? Those who, you know, like as if the gospel that wasn't being preached, or the gospel being preached by the brown and black, was a lesser gospel, was a not as qualified gospel. That's kind of came off to me, you know. And then when I would listen to different, I remember listening to the debate, and I go here just for a second, the debate with T.D. Jakes and Mark Driscoll over his viewpoint, and how they needed T.D. Jakes to say this, and they needed T.D. Jakes to say that, so that T.D. Jakes so that they could qualify, or they can say, and it's like, it seemed like a lot of that was going on within CHH amongst our pioneers of it, which were mostly a majority black. So it was easy to hear John Piper. It was easy to hear a quote from Mark Driscoll. It was easy to hear a quote from what's the other one?
Paul Washer.
The one that cries a lot. That's what I say.
Paul Washer.
Washer. Yeah, it was easy to hear quotes from this. You could, I mean, Flame albums were littered, in the whole album based on books written by this author and that author. You know, Flame does that a lot. And I started, at first I didn't really, it wasn't no big deal, but when I started noticing like some of the rhetoric and some of the lyrics and what it was like, man, is the only churches that are doing this style preaching, this style approach is the black church, is the brown black church. And when I would hear the lyrics that was kind of so harsh towards the inner city black pastor who preaches a message, and I ain't for prosperity, don't get me wrong. And I've been thinking about this hard for this particular podcast, because I was talking to my wife about this upstairs earlier. Like, I'm not an advocate of prosperity gospel at all. I see the fallacies, I see the error in it, but I was telling her, I was like, but I understand how easy some, not all, some were abusive with it, but some were trying to encourage a very impoverished, a very poor and people who needed just that little that just that little sense of what they called hope, even though it might have been improperly
placed,
it was still to drive hope and morale for people who had none. You know what I'm saying? And it was speaking to the context of what they were dealing with, whereas in a suburban area where finances ain't an issue or it ain't a known issue, it ain't public amongst each other's. If a family is financially going through, it's probably kept very private within that family's home in a suburban area. For the most part, when you're living in houses that are $200,000 and $300,000, you're driving cars that are upwards of $60,000 to $80,000, and everybody has their own car, and you got the fence with the beautiful dog running around, and everyone got the garage door that with a push of a button that opens up, and 2 other cars are in there. Like, you ain't got to worry about a prosperity state. You live in prosperity. See what I'm saying? So you don't have to preach to me that God is going to take care of my financial needs, because your financial needs are taken care of. That's not your issue. So you could come to church and get the authentic, full gospel, whereas in the city, they got to deal with folks who are hope deferred. You know what I'm saying? And so I started kind of like, as I didn't accept the prosperity gospel, my understanding of why they were doing that in some capacities, not all.
Yes.
I got very sensitive about it, to where when I would see some of our prominent black pastors and leaders being poked and primed and shot holes through, and not just the black ones. We got the Kenneth Copelands and the other ones.
That's where it originated from.
Right, it originated, but a lot of these pastors were of African background or black back, and that kind of really, as a black Christian, and even though I don't agree with all the views, like I don't agree with all the views of John Piper or Paul Washer or even Mark Driscoll, and you knew that some of them. But I felt like the black pastors were always in the crosshairs of what is and isn't Christian, a true Christian faith, and so that kind of bothered me earlier on. And as I saw the Lecrae's and the Reach Records, really with them, and then the Flames and some of the other ones champion a lot of these seminary groups and pastors, and it bothered me, because like, man, it's like, are you ashamed of your own? Like, that's kind of how I felt. And so when I hear KB saying the stuff that he's saying, and I hear what he just said about the seminary and where his intentions were going and where his intentions was coming out, it's like, are we in these seminaries being conditioned to think this way, or being conditioned to forget about, or feel like we have to, what we kind of talked about last week, that when we posted that, see, are we being taught that we have to kind of lay down our blackness, or lay down our experience to be a part of this experience? Like, can the two walk in together, and both experiences be filtered through our music, through our messages, or do I have to lay one down for the other? And that's kind of what I was seeing, and it did bother me a little bit. I won't even lie.
Yeah.
Go ahead. That's just me.
One of the going back to when you were talking about like I wanted to piggyback on what you were saying about, like, the sensitivity that you had for those that you've seen who were given to a prosperity message. Being an individual who's come out of that type of teaching.
You and me both.
Yeah. Both, us both. I totally, and I'm with you, Staff. Like, I get why. I get what would lead a person. I get the mentality that leads a person to that way, or I would say some of the mentalities, because it's multiple reasons.
Yeah,
there are multiple reasons why we'll gravitate toward this. But to your point, when you say, and I was going to say the same thing. What many people in the hood here for those that don't see through it, what they hear is they hear hope.
Right.
They, they're like, man. So God is going, if and man, it's really tragic because it's like, because they have them thinking, man, if I honor my if I bless my pastor, God gonna show up bless me, or if I give abundantly, then God gonna bless me abundantly, and if I do this, then God gonna do this, and if I do this, then God gonna, which is, like I said, that's a very tragic, very
Yeah.
tragic
But
way
you
of.
wake up to it and you realize how tragic it is.
Yes, absolutely,
Because like you said, we both, let's be honest, for a period of time, a season, we
we
both
were
was finding
champions.
hope in them messages.
We
Like,
we
oh
were
Lord,
champions.
thank you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
we were champions. We were champions of that, Stan.
yeah.
I
Don't
felt
ever go listen to my first album. Don't listen. Tell it like it is. All you gonna hear is that type of stuff from that album. Because I believe it. I wholeheartedly bought into that.
But something else I wanted to speak to though, that the prosperity gospel, believe it or not, though, Stav, there's a prosperity gospel that's preached to suburbia, as well as the impoverished. It's not as blatant as the packaging or the presentation that's in the urban, that's presented to those who deal with the marginalized urban, inner cities. But it's still a, that it's this home, this life improvement type of gospel. The 7 steps to a happy marriage, or um 6 ways to get your kids to be like Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and
Yeah.
Abednego.
Right.
It's that type of stuff. Like basically, like, so you mean to tell me this whole out of from Genesis to Revelations, all I gotta do is these 6 things, and then my kids are gonna be, they do that, and they're gonna be exactly the type of kid that they need to be, or the type of
Yeah.
worshiper they need. It's
Just
like
earned salvation.
yes,
Earned.
yes,
Yeah, you're right. You're right on
yeah, and so like that's definitely the prosperity gospel is definitely, it's not just, it ain't just a black thing, because it didn't even originate in the black church, and then it's definitely not just a urban, like a urban inner city thing, but
it ain't just rooted in the urban community.
yeah, it's definitely in suburbia. But no, man. But yeah, I mean, I echo your sentiment. Yeah, you know, the way, like, first off, there are those who there are some who are preaching prosperity gospel, really believing that it is the gospel. Sad enough, they really do believe that they really do believe that that's God's heart, and that's his desire for
Right.
for his church. Because that was my mentality. I literally believed that. Now I didn't start out like this, but after hearing it from the pulpit, after I would say it was a few years after I've been in Christ, but hearing from the pulpit, and then the way it was presented, you know, I'm up here thinking, like, well, yeah, God is a king, and he's and a king is, king is royal, and the king is majestic, and so
Yeah.
and the children of the king, they have the finest of things. So surely God wants me to be, wants me to represent Him, with the finest of things. So I need to reflect that, and I had that whole mentality and everything, and
Yeah.
but it's like once you see that for what it really is, you're like, oh my gosh, it's like, dude, you just look at it, this is insane, this is crazy, this is insane,
It,
but go ahead.
okay. I was going to say, and there's another thing that KB said that I did not play that I want to add into this, and before we move on to some other aspects, and where he was like, okay, me and you both, and I would say maybe you more so than me, but we both come out of areas where either there was some hint of prosperity gospel being preached or full-fledged prosperity gospel being preached, one of the two. And I would say both of us were saved up under that umbrella, up under that ministry, up under that leader who might have preached the gospel that either one linked heavily in a prosperity realm or flirted with it. Like I had the luxury of having a father who he wasn't a head pastor, he was assistant pastor. He wasn't a huge component of prosperity gospel but at the same time, I heard those type of messages from others there, and some of it wasn't out of place, but some of it was out of place. But what I was pointing to, what I'm saying is, me and you both were saved, came to know God under these ministries, and it was something KB said that I agreed to too. You could be in error and not be in heresy, and that was another thing. It was like, oh, T.D. Jakes, heresy. Bishop Noel Jones, heretic. Cartflow Dollar, heretic.
Yeah,
not just error. And it was like that was bothering me. And it was like this is creating a mindset, and it was being disseminated from the artists as well. Like I'm just gonna throw out some names, but you could tell in their heart that they might have felt the exact, like, especially, and I hate to say this, I ain't gonna say his name, just to be right and not but anyway, so to hear KB come out and begin to discuss some of these things openly, not just addressing Lecrae and sharing that he don't fully agree with everything Lecrae is doing, like, whereas Lecrae is like, I'm totally divorcing myself from that, and the effects that have had on me. KB is like, no, I'm not going to divorce them. I'm not going to say I got nothing to do with you now that I realize that, hey, I need to be more attentive over here. I'm not going to say, hey, you suburban people, or hey, you white evangelical, I don't love you no more. I don't want nothing. No, we are family. We are brothers and sisters in the Lord. I still have to deal with you and still love you and still gain stuff that I can glean from you, stuff that I can learn from you while I'm over here trying to equip and improve the lives of those from my inner city that might not come or know that background. You see what I'm saying? So I liked how KB said that.
I appreciated that too.
Yeah, and I also, don't get me wrong, I also appreciate Lecrae making the statement the way that he made it. Saying he needed to divorce from it. He needed to detox. So let's go there. Let's go here. Because I feel kind of validated from this, because I remember a conversation that I was having, and you was there in the conversation as well. And it was a private conversation, and those that was in that conversation will remain nameless. But I made a statement that I felt like, because CHH is dominated by CCM and the majority, that it is hindering these artists from touching on topics, on controversial topics, on sensitive topics as much. So when this kind of was around the time when Sho Baraka had made his song and did Talented 10th, and he had left CHH, he had left Reach Records, and he had started kind of talking about the things he wanted to talk about. It was very black and very urban, Afrocentric and black focused, and then I remember when I was bringing this up to where I was like, dude, look, it's almost like what's going on in sports and with Donald Trump and with the flag. Like a lot of people are not going to do what Colin Kaepernick did.
Yeah,
because they know that that's going to affect their bottom line. You know, that's going to affect their finances and their position and their rapport and relationships. Well, the same thing as CHH. A lot of these artists, I personally feel, and I think KB kind of touched on it, and I also feel like Lecrae kind of just outwardly exposed it. We're scared to speak on brown and black issues like intensely, like really honing in on it. Not like a thizzle, not just talking about I come from the hood, I come from crack, you know what I'm saying? I sold crack, I went to prison. No, I'm talking about literally like social justice. Like we need fair play, we need equality in these situations. Like long as it state I come from bad, I sold dope, but God saved me. That message was fine. That wasn't the offensive message. But when you say black people need justice for the wrongful shootings and murders of innocent black males by police, that went too far. Yeah, that's too far. And so I was saying certainly some of these artists are not going to say that because they know once they say that, then the majority who is inviting them to their conferences, who are buying their books, who are buying their albums, who, you know what I'm saying, who are championing them, just like I was listening to Ken Jones on Wado. Wado show has really become a great place to be right now. The brother doing great things with the interviews. Ken Jones said, he said, how in the world is hip hop? And this is what we got to commend, and we gotta show some love to our white brothers and sisters, our white churches who are embracing hip hop, bringing us into their churches, giving us a platform and space, and utilizing it as a tool to reach the youth. Yes, like they are doing it in a way that the black church has never done it, and still to this day are hesitant to do. Man, I was talking to a pastor, and you know I do Christian hip hop, and they knew I do Christian hip hop. And he's like, man, I ain't really for all that, but I like you, and I think you're good. That's the first time I ever really listened to it. And it was because of you. But it's like, that's because you know me. Yes. But what if you didn't know me? You know what I'm saying? What if you didn't have that rapport with me, and you didn't know my walk, and you didn't hear me, get a chance to hear me preach, and know how I'm going to come? You wouldn't accept my music. So it's like, you judge. So the white church has embraced. I remember going to Cape LaCroix, standing on the stage with you rapping Joyful Noise. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they could have been like, I remember I go to Cape first, and they bringing in Derek Minor, and they bringing in Thizzle, and they making a big ordeal about it where we got to have 4 and 5 discussions before we bring somebody in to some of these black churches here, man. Like, who is it? I gotta hear them. And like, no, man. Like, so we gotta commend the white church and white evangelicals and all that for the love and the acceptance that they gave CHH. Man, but in the same, go ahead. I want to keep going.
I just want to say, man, you bring up a great point with that. Like, that's a great piece right there. Like, because they were willing, just on some willing to take a chance and willing to support when, like you said, like to the black church's discredit, like they looked at us with the side eye, and
they still do.
Yeah, you know, you right, Steph, you right. Like, you know, they've done better. They do better. At least in more I guess in more urban metropolitan areas, you know, at least, you know, they doing better. They being more embracive. But you're right. By and large, they're the ones that's more hesitant to bring in and to support Christian hip hop, which is problematic because we belong to y'all.
Yeah, and look, Yeah, go ahead. You right on money.
And then another thing, and then another thing and that's another reason why I had problems with Eric Mason's statement about like the reason why gospel doesn't embrace Christian hip hop is because we rejected the black church. No, the black church rejected us first. And where the black church rejected us, the white church was like, well, hey, bring that to us. We'll support that. We'll promote that. We'll put resources behind that. And I look at, man, a brother out of St. Louis, minister. I mean, that brother, that dude, he gets mad love from his church and his church family, man. Like, I mean, I believe it's a predominantly white church. And from what I see, man, you know, like I don't know the dude personally. He don't know me from Adam, but from what I see, man, like his church love him, and they love his ministry. Yeah, and he loved them, and they support what he do. You know, and that was the big thing that drew the Lecrae's. Well, first off, it was the doctrine.
Yeah,
it was the doctrine. Then also with the doctrine and the teaching, these people were embracing their gifts where the people that looked like them were demonizing it. These people who don't look like them, they're embracing it, they're excited about it, and then like I said earlier, they putting money behind it, and they're telling, hey man, go for it, man, do it, go for it, man, you know. And so it's like, well, shoot, okay, yeah. And so
I would say it was a combination. Like when you said it was a doctrine, then it was I would say it was a combination of both at the exact same time. Like Lecrae often brings up the fact that he wears his snapbacks. Like, dude, I'm gonna be honest. Like the black church, it wasn't no come as you are.
Oh no.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh no.
You couldn't like, dude, and that's something the Lord has had me on, Trev. Like, and I've been trying to tell the church, like he tells me to dress down on Sunday. You know where I go, and you know we predominantly, they were suit wearers. Yeah, traditional suit and tie, the whole garment, and I felt the pressure to align with that, and I was. But as the years went by, and the people that was frequenting the church, they didn't wear suits, they didn't wear ties, they was in blue jeans and nice little button ups and the Lord told me to start dress down, and so we introduced a dress down Sunday, but he started telling me to dress more down every Sunday, like in between the suit and what they would wear, like wear like that, because it would be more welcoming to those who come in who ain't suited and booted. But the white church, you can walk in there on a Sunday and see blue jeans and some tennis shoes, and they don't feel out of place. And so I feel like when you were saying it was the doctrine, I would say it was a combination of I didn't have to put on a garment to be accepted. I could just come and I was accepted.
I could be a regular person and be embraced. I could be
a regular person, and then the ability to be a regular person, and on top of that, I'm hearing doctrinal truths that I might have did or didn't hear, depending on what church I came from and the equipness of that pastor or that leadership. Yeah, some of these truths that's coming out of these churches were also coming out of some of the churches that some of these folks were attending. But if the barrier is I gotta wear a suit and tie, I gotta go out, and then the barrier is gonna keep me from getting there. So it was just a totality of the acceptance. Like, not only do you accept me, you accept what I wear. I'm hearing things I've never heard, and you accept the music I like. Like, this is like wins on top of wins on top of wins. So so go ahead though. I just wanted to make that interject that, but go ahead.
But I mean, that, I told. I mean, you hit on like it was basically I was just wanting to really just chime in and just say you brought up a great point with the fact that how the black church basically basically kind of not kind of it's snubbed CHH. And that's putting it nicely to be honest.
Right, yeah, you doing real, you being real like, and I think so. No, you know, man, come on, Trail.
No, you right.
I told you my first
Yeah,
experience.
I
I
I
told you
never
about my
forget that.
first experience outside of my local town.
Yeah,
We got invited to rap to do some hip hop, and you know, brother Sheldon. What's Sheldon's last name?
Tyler.
What's his name? Yeah, Titus. He invited us to do some music, and we traveled, and they had this quartet, this old black quartet, and we get up, we do the music, the church boys, we do what we do. We get out, the young folks going crazy. They all up and into energetic and happy, and we walk outside, you know, to catch our breath after our set. We ministered, we talked to them, told them how the Lord can use any talent, any gifting. He gave it to you without repentance. So if you can rap, use it. If you can do poetry, use it. And they was coming out asking us questions, asking for our autograph. They was really enthused and excited. And this quartet got up and and said, God don't need and want your talent. And he's the same yesterday they're totally abusing what that scripture is meaning.
Yeah,
but
don't
he's the
know
same
the scripture
yesterday,
means.
today, and forevermore, meaning that their music was the proper music. And I'm like, wait a minute. So you telling me Paul was doing what had quartet when he was I guess David, when he was writing the songs, was doing it in quartet
music, yeah.
so man, we was getting so I would say some of it too. Trying to get back to the point. Some of the exodus from blackness with our CHH artists with the black church was the disgruntled frustration, anger of not being accepted, and the art form and the music not being accepted, and feeling like you've been, like you said, like you've been shunned and being disrespected. And when you found that embracing amongst the white churches and the white evangelicals, it was warming, and it was like, wow, I can be me, I can let my wings out, I can be myself and praise the Lord the way that I feel in my heart to praise him without feeling shunned and put down. And then it did this though. But it morphed into, as the money got bigger, as the opportunities got bigger, as the platform got bigger, now I feel obligated. Now I feel a sense of having to speak to the issues of that group.
Yeah.
And as I saw things that were plaguing me personally, that affected me personally, I didn't feel
at liberty
the liberty to speak on these things. And when it kind of got to the point that I felt that it was a must, like Lecrae said, like Shobaraka before Lecrae and many others even before that, quickly found out that even though I love your hip hop, I love your style, your swag, your zeal and your passion, your fieriness, and all that. We ain't here for the outcry against polices, and we're not here for you talking down on America and what we think of America and all that. So we quickly found out that the love had a limit there too. You know what I'm saying? So while we was totally shunned by the black church, we was accepted, but up to a limit. Like, not all. I want to broad stroke this all white, evangelicals, because some would align with us wholeheartedly on many would, not be honest with you. But the majority still would line against what we're saying. So, but yeah, man. So to let you in, because I think I've been going a little longer than I should have. Like, what do you think about that vice grip that started off to be a great thing for CHH that turned into a vice grip? Like, what do you think about that?
I think it's one of those things. It's basically it's like, it goes back to the thing that there's no perfect church, and it even goes as it relates to like black church, white church. It's like each demographic has it's like in the black church you're gonna deal with and I know this is gonna be spoiler alert. Here comes a generalization, but there's some truth to it. I mean, I know not all churches are not all black churches are like this, but one of the things that like in many black churches, one of the things that we as CHH cats are deal with is the hesitancy and the demonization of CHH and hip hop culture, and anything that's somewhat current or more modern. But so it's like that's one of the things that we that we were kind of like wanting to be freed of. We wanted to be somewhere that was more embracing of us coming in, with our with our ripped up jeans or our ball caps and so yeah, the white church embraces that. Now where we had to deal with the demonization of our hip hopness in the black church, we have to deal with the demonization of too much of our blackness in the white church, specifically when it comes to speaking up about certain aspects of our culture, or specifically when we speak out against certain institutions in our country. Like you said, when we speak up against law enforcement, then that's one of it's like the black church, both the black and the white church we have our own cultural cardinal sins. Yeah. That we have these lines in the sand that hey don't cross that, and they tend to differ. They tend to differ between which culture for the most part. Like I said, there's variance and there's difference depending on.
There's shared ones, but there's a lot of ones that are totally different.
Yes, right. like in some black churches, one of the lines you don't cross is if you don't agree with what the man of God says, well, then you wrong. He can't be wrong. Right. There's a sense that like I said, this is not every black church.
But a lot of them.
But yeah,
I got something to tell you when we get off. Anyway, hush up, man. Hush up, man.
But so like and I would say now, I wouldn't say this is in like black reform churches. Like black reform church, I don't think that, because they have a what I would call a healthy critique of their clergy, because they have this high view of scripture. Right. They believe that nobody is above the critique of the scripture, not even the man of God. And so
I can't stand when when some of our churches put the whole your blessing is riding on.
It's wrapped up in the pastor.
Dude, wow! So you telling me that now I got another person I got to go? I thought Jesus was the only person I had to go through. Now I got to go through. I didn't know that. Well, go ahead. I didn't know that you was the bridge to the bridge. I thought that bridge was a good bridge over this. And I need you to. I didn't know that. I'm going.
Yeah. So yeah, like whether it be a pastor or a traveling prophet or evangelist that comes in and gives a real powerful prophetic word, and you don't agree, you feel like this person, I don't know about that. Well, that's a no. You're not allowed to not agree with them or to differ with them. Like that's an area that can be problematic in certain
resisting the Lord.
Yeah. Like that's in certain churches. In some black churches, that's problematic.
And be honest, dude. And I know this ain't this. I know I don't want to mess up your statement, what you saying, because I know you going somewhere. But I just want to say that I have also seen this amongst some white pastors too. Like,
Yep.
man, I watched a video where this white pastor went off, like stopped this message and went off on the congregation and
I know what you're talking about.
the
I know what
man
you're
come.
talking
I'm
about. It
like,
was hilarious. Dude, that was so hilarious.
I was like, I see some stuff in black churches. I ain't never seen that like this. But go
Dude,
ahead, man. Go ahead.
yeah, we gotta talk about that offline.
Yeah. Man,
But
that boy, he was like the judge. He was the lawyer, the judge, and the jury. He was all of it, man. I was like, God,
dude, stop.
go ahead, man.
But
I don't want to mess up your point. Go ahead.
yeah. So like in the black church, you can sometimes deal with that situation where you don't contradict or disagree with the clergy, or if you question, if you question in any kind of way, it can be viewed as problematic. Then also, I mean, there's a litany of other things, but that's one thing. Like I said, and then going back to our hip hopness, just that in and of itself, that's problematic because to them it's like, well, we're looking like the world. We're trying to bring the world into the church because we dress according to hip hop culture. Even though wearing a suit is not kingdom culture, there's nowhere that talks about that. There's nowhere in the Bible where it mentions 3-piece suits. Now I tell you, a culture that did wear 3-piece suits, mob culture. But it's amazing how they don't. It's amazing how they don't link those two, or pimp culture. They wear suits, but they don't link that either.
Right.
Even though there are many preachers who kind of look like pimps, but anyway, I'm gonna get away from
Stop it, man.
But anyway, but so there's that thing. So it's like we get away we get away from that, or these guys they get away from that. But then after a good run in some of these majority culture churches, they realize that, hey, we've started knocking over some of the sacred cows in this area too, which is don't say anything that has any type of political implications to it at all. One of them being stuff that deals with race, anything that deals with anything that seems unpatriotic, anything that seems to be critical of law enforcement of any kind, or the military. If you have a critique against this country, at all, that can be problematic.
And to speak on that, KB said something that I thought was very profound too. He said something happened where people woke up and realized, it's like, wait a minute. We're championing and speaking for people that have no idea of who we are.
Yeah.
And then he went on to say, because we have no idea of who we are, because we haven't really been looking at it. So, and it goes back to you said, I believe, because the question is CHH now in a woke state? The obvious answer is yes. Now the question becomes why? It's because of the current climate that exists in our nation. Like, we're in a very unique place.
Very volatile. History,
very volatile, very transparent, very upfront, unapologetic, you know what I'm saying? And it is, and in response, it is provoking. It is, the Bible says be angry and sin not. It didn't tell you not to be angry. So it's provoking anger, it's provoking frustration and aggravation, because it does cut across racial lines, and it is very racialized. And as a black person, as a white man or a black man or a white woman, and or black woman or brown or yellow or red, red woman or male, when these issues start to come up, it's going to hit you and affect you widely and very much differently than it would a white person or a brown person or a black person. All this is affecting us, and even within the black community and black race is affecting each individual within that race differently.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So it's forcing, if we are the voice or if we are the prophets, that's what I'll say.
Yeah.
Because again, me and you've been talking about, it ain't just prophets just don't come and shake the bottle of a genie and tell you how many wishes you're about to get. And, that's kind of what some of the backgrounds of where we come out of kind of treat prophetic engagement. Like the prophet will tell you that you finna get a check in the mail, or that house you've been looking at, God finna enlarge your territory. That's what we look for with prophecy most of the time. But then there's prophetic, like Jeremiah, like
fourth telling.
Yeah, that speaks to the current narrative, the current issue of that day and that time, and speaks to the power of that time. And I feel like as artists and rap artists, many of us are operating from a prophetic platform where Lecrae is being very prophetic in a lot of his songs. KB is being very prophetic in a lot of his songs. The Derek Miners, the Show Barakas, definitely Show Baraka. And Thizzle and Bizzle and Dayton and God Over Money. I mean, with that, the list can go on with that. They're being prophetic because they're speaking truth. They're speaking truth to power and multiple powers, not just the United States nation and government, but the government of the church, the government of white evangelicalism, the government of all this stuff is speaking to that. And of course, when you begin to speak to power don't respond too well. Oftentimes, unless the Lord touches the heart of the person in power. Like, look at that. Like, I always use David as an example. David could have silenced Nathan if he wanted to. The Pharaoh who dealt with Joseph could have silenced Joseph and could have. He had to place Joseph in a position that he placed Joseph. He could have dealt with Joseph no different than the Pharaoh dealt with Moses. You know what I'm saying? It takes the heart of it takes the hand of the Lord to touch the heart of power. So we speak to it, and through our dissemination, through our rebuke, our open challenge, we praying for our words and the Lord through our words to prick the heart of that person or that group or that power, you know. So so that's what I feel like we are forced now. Like CHH, Christian hip hop, has been pushed in the corner and forced to deal with some subject matter that I believe they knew that they needed to, but didn't know how and didn't know the effects of dealing with it. Now that a few people have kind of fallen on the sword, I feel like now, like almost like Colin Kaepernick. Now that Colin Kaepernick fell on the sword, now everyone else are a little bit more brave about and inspired because they seen him fall on the sword. We seen Show Baraka fall on the sword. Now we see Lecrae in a sense falling on the sword. Now everyone else is like, okay, I guess since he's doing it, and I want to support him. I don't want to see him outcast like that. So I'm gonna fall on the sword too. And I see a lot of that going on. Some copycatting and bandwagoning, but some sincere stuff as well.
Absolutely.
No, I'm leaving. I'm turning it over to you.
Oh, my bad. But man, absolutely, man. Like, I mean, you know, that's my thing. Like, you definitely got some cats who are out here who you're hearing more people talk about, being woke, and things of that nature, or talking about social issues, because it is what's current, it is what's out here, and I think, yeah, they definitely need to be. They definitely need to be. But of course, as you stated earlier, we've had some of those who had to they like you said. I mean, you put it very well. They had to fall on the sword. You know, they had to bite the bullet. They had to endure the harsh persecutions of being the first ones to do it, and and all the hate and criticism that comes with that, and so but like you said, now you have more people who are stepping up, and because of that, uh, ultimately it's forcing people to have to listen, and so it's gonna mobilize the message, and make people be like, okay, well, we're gonna have to pay attention to this, and see what this is. Of course, you're gonna definitely have people that are gonna continue to buck against it, but um, with CHH being more socially conscious, um, it is definitely gonna have an impact, and it's something that should have been happening, and some as a group that came to mind when you had told me about this topic, and you probably never even heard of this group. There's a group, Christian rap group from the '90s, and they weren't very popular. They didn't hit big, uh, and I doubt many people even know about them. But they were called. I know about them because I had a this will date me and show how old this group is. I had a cassette tape, uh, but uh, the name of the group is ETW, End Time Warriors. That was their name, and they had a song on there on the album where they were talking, where it spoke to, like uh, what people would call black on black crime, uh, and part of the chorus was talking about, part of the chorus was saying, hey, you know why all the killing, ain't nobody dying but us, you know and and so it's like, back as far as the mid late '90s, you had people who were Christian rappers, CHH,
Keep talking. I'll be right back. Just I'm
okay,
saying.
okay, CHH rappers that were socially conscious. Is just, they just didn't have the platform that CHH has now. CHH has a huge platform now, and CHH has the mic, and it has the mic now where a lot of people are listening. A lot of people are paying attention to what it has to say, and so voices like that now, voices like that nowadays will actually have an opportunity to be heard, have an opportunity, to get its message across, for for better or for worse, because as like we've already mentioned, there are certain individuals they don't want, they do not want to hear uh, a socially driven message. That's just not something they want to hear. But I definitely think that it's necessary. So I mean, is CHH in a woke state? I would say, in a sense, yes, because it is talking more about socially conscious issues. So it is, but to what degree? Like I mean, obviously there's a handful of these individuals who are actually really, really engaged in, I guess, quote unquote, the movement. Like Shobaraka, I mean, he's one who, he is a champion for, um, social engagement as it relates to politics, as it relates to just the improvement and the betterment of black and brown people. I mean, this brother has co-founded an organization called the AND Campaign, which is, basically trying to foster basically a group of people who want to be politically engaged, but they feel like they have no voice with the two-party political system that we have now, with liberals and conservatives. They feel like they've got to quote unquote, to use your analogy from earlier. They feel like they have to fall on a sword just to align with one party or the other. If they align with the liberals, they got to give up their convictions. If they align with the conservatives, they got to give up compassion.
Right.
And so, it's like, so they started the AND campaign because they want to be both compassionate and hold to their biblical convictions. And
Right.
so, that's the work that they're doing. So it's like, definitely a brother who is definitely woke, and like straight up, like for real, like about that life, and it ain't about him, being about a title. It's Sho Baraka. You know what I'm
What's
saying?
the name? You tell them the name of it. I think it's I got something to say. Is that what it's under? Or is it under Sho Baraka?
Yes, you said it right. Yeah, Sho Baraka has a new show out. Yes, on YouTube. Comes out every 2 weeks. Through it's brought to you by the 4th District, which is his podcast team. A team of podcasters that they have. They have some awesome podcast shows on there. But this talk show that they just started, they're 2 episodes deep so far, but it's called "I Got Something to Say."
Yeah, I got something to say.
Yeah, both of them good. They have great segments. They got a music segment on there, where they highlight a local artist. Typically, it's a local artist, like an artist around maybe the Atlanta-based area, or someone that they know. And they also have a segment about music you should be checking out, music you should be listening to. And then they have segments that basically talk about political engagement, also topics that range from things such as misogyny, to also white being white and woke. Just all kinds of discussion points.
The reason I was laughing when you said misogyny is the way that he presented that topic was very funny to me. When y'all get a chance to watch, I got something to say. It's a portion that goes called Sho Baraka is a very welcoming. He causes you to let your guard down and lets you kind of be yourself, because he ain't so serious that he kind of forces you to be stiff, and he ain't so goofy that you can't take the discussion serious. He has a good balance of both dynamics. Like, he can be serious, he can be funny, he can be charming, he can be all type of things, man. So but yeah, to get to a point to where we bringing this wrapping this up. So as far as, like, I heard you say, I had to step away for a second, but I did hear you say that you answered the question, is the church woke? You said, is the CHH now in a woke state? You said yes, to an extent.
Yeah.
And I actually agree with you. I said yes, but then how you framed that, I have to agree with. Yes, it is to an extent, because not everyone, and I kind of said this, but I said again, because not everyone is doing it for the right reasons. Some are doing it for the trend of it. Some are trying to catch the wave of the now. Like, and it's a very, and I would say this, it's very offensive. Just like I saw when people trying to trend and catch fire off of the back of tragedies.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna say, I'll leave it at that. I won't mention any particular one, but just when situations happen, we shouldn't be so quick to jump up to try to throw a song together. To me, and I think who said this? I think it was Thizzle said this. He was saying this even with the Mike Brown situation.
Yeah.
He said that sometimes, man, I want to learn all the intricacies of. I want to learn all what took place and get a full scope of what's going on before I start to put lyrics on wax. I might be talking from an angle of frustration, anger. I might be talking uninformed. I might a whole bunch of things. So it's best to sit back and get the full understanding of the full scope of what's going on instead of trying to rush in and be the first with a song forward. And the first, you know, and I see that with so many of these situations and circumstances that happened to young black males and even females or women. Let me pause on that because I know calling a woman a female is offensive for some. But black males or men and black women and brown women, you know what I'm saying, the same, getting shot down innocently or unarmed. You know, people was utilizing these situations for opportunistic reasons. And I you know, and you can see through it. You know, it was somebody said earlier today, he said, I know when I'm hearing mythology, I think it was what's his name? What's his man's name? I keep Rava, how you say his name? Zacharias.
Robbie Zacharias.
Yeah, Ravi Zacharias was telling a story, but he was saying how what the person said, I know when I'm reading mythology, and I also know when I'm reading authentic history. And in the same sense, the listener knows when they're listening to a cash grab or opportunistic song versus a song that's from the heart and serious. You know, you can tell the difference. And so I'll leave it at that. But yeah, man, I think this was a good discussion. Shouts out to KB. Shouts out to Wado, you know, and the Wado radio show for providing the little audio that we use. Hopefully we don't get any penalties for that. Hopefully. Thank you for the listener that we've had. I don't know who that is. Hopefully you leave a comment. Let us know who you are. And at one point we got up to about 5 listeners. So, but yeah, thank y'all for tuning in and listening to us. Trev, you got any final words you want to share before we get out of here?
Just echo your sentiments to all the listeners that tuned in. We appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much for just giving us, you know, just a little bit of your time. You know, please continue to tune in. And like I said last time, you know, hey, hit us up, man. Leave comments. Let us know, you know, if y'all got some topics or something, you know, something on y'all mind, or y'all heart, y'all want to hear discuss. Y'all want to hear us talk about it. Y'all want to hear us chop it up on here. You know, man. Just hey, let us know. Hit us up, you know, and we'll field your questions and your comments and stuff, and we'll see, you know, and we'll go from there. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And stay tuned. It's like I said, it's a podcast that we did last week that got a copyright strike. Once I edit off the 2 songs that we used and played at the beginning and end, that'll be able to be uploaded. And that was a real good topic. What was the name of that one?
Is white evangelicalism basically, are they embracing of my blackness? Or
yeah, is white evangelical, is it opposed to my black anti?
Yeah,
something like that. It was a really good topic. Yeah. It was a good topic, man. It was a real good topic. And understand something, folks. We're not going to stay on this whole black, and because we don't want to see like we punching a punching bag of white evangelicals or white people. We ain't here to punch and beat up on nobody. Just like tonight, we might need to go into some topics about the black church and the hypocrisies within it, like and the black experience in general, some of the hypocrisies that exist just within that dynamic. And so we don't want anyone of any background, white, black, or other, to think that we're beating up. We just know that these are very vital conversations that need to be had. Aspects, I feel like there's aspects that white evangelicals don't notice of themselves, just like there's aspects of black evangelicals that about black evangelicals that the black Christian doesn't notice or know about themselves. So oftentimes it's a person outside of you that can got a better viewpoint and vantage point of you, and the one that's receiving you, can articulate it better than you in your stance of giving it. So I just feel like these conversations are needed. I think it's healthy for all parties, but we don't want you to think we bashing white folks. You know what I'm saying? So just wanted to put that out there.
That's definitely not the intent. We just want to have dialogue, man, on issues that in many circles just aren't being discussed, just aren't being had. And we're also just trying to be honest about how we feel, about these topics and these circumstances. Because that's why that's why the podcast is called Thinking Out Loud. It's just just our various random thoughts on these topics and how we feel and what we think. And so we just attempting to have a candid discussion about these issues and stuff. So man, yeah, we appreciate y'all rocking with us thus far.
Okay. So anyway, man, I'm not gonna play any outro music this time, just to be on the safe side, and I don't have anything loaded in my phone.
Don't let them silence you, man. Don't let them silence you.
No, brother. I don't feel like having to edit nothing. Anyway, so with that being said, this has been the Thinking Out Loud Dangerous Minds podcast. It's CHH now in a woke state. Hope y'all enjoyed it. If y'all want to hear more stuff like this or want us to hit on other topics, make sure you put it in the comment section, hit us up, and let us know if it's anything you want to talk, whether it's biblical, social related, marital, relational, whatever. Some things we might be uncomfortable, but if we feel like we can talk about it, we will. And let us know. But until then, this is your boy Staffy signing out. Deuces, and I'll get Trevor his opportunity to sign out as well.
Yeah, it's your boy Ministry. Just saying, hey, once again, thanks for rocking with us, man. We'll see you next week. Later.
All right. Peace.